What compels a young woman to leave the comforts of her homeland, not to seek adventure, but to rescue children from a darkness few dared to name? In this powerful, true story of unwavering faith, profound sacrifice, and radical love, we journey through the extraordinary life of Amy Carmichael, a missionary who shattered cultural barriers and rescued hundreds of children from ritual slavery in India. From the verdant fields of Northern Ireland to the scorching plains of Tamil Nadu, Amy's legacy continues to inspire believers across the world today, proving that one surrendered life can rewrite the destiny of many. Whether you're drawn to stories of fearless women of faith, the triumph of the human spirit, or the power of sacrificial love, this biography will stir your soul and challenge your understanding of divine calling. Like this video, if Amy Carmichael's story inspires you, subscribe for more true Christian biographies that stir the soul. Share this with a friend who needs encouragement to keep pressing on in faith and compassion. Amy Wilson. Carmichael was born on December 16, 1867 in Milliel, a coastal village in County Down, Northern Ireland, to a devout Presbyterian family. Her father, David Carmichael, was a wealthy flax miller, and her mother, Catherine, was a woman of deep faith and gentle spirit. Amy, the eldest of 7 children, grew up in a comfortable home filled with books, faith, and the rhythm of the sea. From a young age, she exhibited a sensitive spirit and a profound, almost innate, hunger for God. She was often found in quiet corners, immersed in scripture or prayer, pondering the deeper mysteries of faith. Her childhood was marked by a strict yet loving upbringing, emphasizing honesty, integrity, and service to others. One particular childhood incident, often recounted, cemented her early spiritual convictions. She wished for blue eyes to match a doll, but upon realizing the vanity of such a prayer, she repented. Later, her eyes were described as being the bluest imaginable. This seemingly minor event instilled in her a lifelong lesson. God truly hears and cares about the smallest details, but He desires a heart aligned with His will, not fleeting desires. This early understanding of God's personal involvement would become a cornerstone of her adult faith. As a young woman, Amy's family moved to the more industrial city of Belfast. Here, amidst the stark contrast of poverty and prosperity, her call to service began to blossom. One cold, rainy night, attending a mission meeting, she encountered a moment that would forever alter her trajectory. As she left a sermon, she saw a poor, old woman shivering outside. Without hesitation, Amy removed her new velvet jacket and placed it around the woman's shoulders. The warmth she felt in her heart, a profound sense of divine pleasure, was unmistakable. It was a moment of deep spiritual clarity, a whisper from God that serving the least of these was serving Him. She later wrote of this experience, "From that day, I understood that I was to serve God with my life, not just my words." Her initial ministry began in the mill district of Belfast, among the shawlies, young women who worked long hours in the flax mills and often wrapped shawls around their heads. Despite her delicate health and social standing, Amy immersed herself in their lives. She started a morning coffee mission in her own home, offering practical help, spiritual guidance, and a safe haven. This quickly grew into a large gathering known simply as the Welcome. Her dedication was profound, often sacrificing her own comfort and sleep for the sake of these women. Her health, however, was always a concern. Frequent illnesses and periods of exhaustion plagued her, a challenge she would battle throughout her life. Yet, she pressed on, convinced that if God called her, He would sustain her. By the late 1880s, the call to foreign missions, still a nascent concept for many, began to stir in Amy's heart with an irresistible force. The stories of pioneers like Hudson Taylor and Adoniram Judson fueled her longing to reach those who had never heard the gospel. This was not a casual desire, but a deep conviction that became all-consuming. Her delicate health, however, remained a significant obstacle. Doctors advised against the rigors of missionary life, a harsh reality that deeply frustrated her. Undeterred, Amy sought opportunity wherever she could find it. Her first attempt at international service led her to Japan in 1892 through the Church of England's Zenana Missionary Society. The journey itself was arduous, and the climate proved too harsh for her fragile constitution. After only 15 months, she was forced to return to England due to severe recurring headaches and general weakness. This was a heavy blow, a test of her resolve. Was God closing the door or simply redirecting her path? After a brief period of recovery, she felt a pull towards China. Again, the rigorous climate and demands on her health proved too much. Each setback, however, solidified her dependence on God. She learned that external circumstances, even physical limitations, could not extinguish a divine call. Her faith was being refined in the crucible of disappointment and physical pain. It was during this period of prayer and introspection that a new direction emerged, one guided by a deep sense of divine timing and purpose. In 1895, at the age of 27, Amy Carmichael finally arrived in Tuticorin, India, a port city in the southeastern part of the country, connected to the Church Missionary Society. This time, the call felt right. The air, though hot and humid, seemed to welcome her spirit. India, with its vibrant colors, ancient traditions, and immense spiritual need, became her destiny. The initial days were a whirlwind of cultural shock. The sights, sounds, and smells were overwhelming, a stark contrast to the quiet familiarity of Ireland. Yet, she embraced it all with an open heart and a deep sense of purpose. Her first task was to master the Tamil language, a complex Dravidian tongue. Amy, with her characteristic dedication, immersed herself in its study, understanding that true connection required genuine communication. She lived simply, often adopting Indian dress and customs to better integrate with the local people. This was not merely a tactic, but a genuine desire to become all things to all people, a principle she held dear. She began working with women and girls, sharing the gospel and offering comfort in impoverished villages. She traveled extensively by bullock cart, braving heat, dust, and isolation, her heart burning with compassion for the suffering souls she encountered. Her mission deepened when she met her first temple child. It was a young girl named Preena who had seemingly escaped the dark fate of the Devadasi system. The Devadasi tradition, deeply rooted in certain Hindu practices, involved young girls being consecrated to deities in temples. While historically some were temple dancers or musicians, by Amy's time, the system had degenerated into institutionalized ritual prostitution. Children, often young and vulnerable, were sold or dedicated by their families, condemned to a life of exploitation and degradation, hidden in plain sight within sacred spaces. Amy's encounter with Preena opened her eyes to a horrifying reality. She learned that these children were not merely orphans or runaways, but victims of a religious system that justified their abuse. The injustice ignited a righteous fury within her, coupled with an overwhelming compassion that defined the rest of her life. She realized that these children, often branded and marked for their tragic fate, had no voice, no escape, and no hope. The sheer scale and systematic nature of the problem were staggering. It was a darkness so profound that many missionaries, focused on other ministries, either did not fully grasp its extent or felt powerless to confront it directly. But for Amy, retreat was not an option. She saw Christ in the faces of these children, and his call to rescue them became an unshakable conviction. She understood that conventional missionary methods, preaching from a pulpit, distributing tracts, would not suffice. These children needed to be physically removed from danger, protected, and loved back to wholeness. This was a mission of profound physical and spiritual rescue, a direct confrontation with entrenched evil. It required courage, ingenuity, and an absolute reliance on God. The Dohnavur Fellowship was not built overnight. It emerged organically from Amy Carmichael's relentless compassion. Her first rescue, Preena, became the cornerstone. Soon, other children, often tiny, scarred, and traumatized, found their way to Amy. They came from temples, from abusive households, from the fringes of society drawn by rumors of a foreign woman who offered safety and love. Amy understood that simply taking the children was not enough. She needed to create a safe, nurturing, and permanent home, a family where they could heal, learn, and grow in the knowledge of God's love. This vision became the Dohnavur Fellowship, founded in 1901 in Dohnavur, a remote village in the Tirunelveli district of Tamil Nadu. The principles upon which Dohnavur was built were revolutionary for its time. Firstly, there was no caste system. In a society deeply stratified by caste, Amy insisted that all children, regardless of their background, were equal in God's eyes and in the Dohnavur family. This meant sharing meals, living quarters, and responsibilities without distinction, a radical act of defiance against social norms. Secondly, Amy and her fellow workers lived as Indians. They adopted Indian dress, ate Indian food, and learned the local languages and customs. This was not cultural appropriation, but an act of profound humility and identification, breaking down barriers between the missionaries and the rescued children. The challenges were immense. Opposition came from various quarters, temple authorities who saw their income threatened, families seeking to reclaim children for exploitation, and even colonial authorities who sometimes viewed Dohnavur's methods as disruptive. There were constant financial struggles, yet Amy steadfastly refused to ask for money, believing that God alone would supply their needs. And He did, often miraculously, through anonymous gifts from around the world. Life at Dohnavur was structured around love, discipline, and spiritual formation. Each child was given a new name, symbolizing a new beginning. They received education, vocational training, and critically, deep spiritual teaching rooted in the Bible. Amy, affectionately known as Amma, mother by the children, poured her life into them. She understood that healing from trauma required immense patience and unconditional love. Stories from Dohnavur are filled with accounts of children transformed. Those who arrived withdrawn and terrified slowly blossomed into confident, joyful individuals, many of whom went on to serve God in various capacities within India. Amy also established strict rules to protect the children. Rescued girls and boys were never allowed to leave the compound alone, and workers were trained in the delicate art of undercover rescue. She also ensured that the children, once grown, had a supportive community and opportunities within the fellowship itself, creating a self-sustaining spiritual family. Dohnavur grew from a handful of children to a thriving community of hundreds, with homes, schools, a small hospital, and even a printing press producing Christian literature in Tamil. It was a testament to the power of a single, surrendered life, fully dedicated to a cause greater than itself. Throughout her time in India, Amy Carmichael maintained a rigorous schedule of writing. Her books were not theological treatises, but deeply personal reflections, narratives of faith, and poignant accounts of her ministry. Things as They Are, 1903, was a groundbreaking work, unflinchingly revealing the harsh realities of missionary life and the spiritual darkness she encountered, particularly the horrors of the temple system. It served as a powerful call to action for the wider Christian world, shattering romanticized notions of missions. Her other notable works, such as Gold Cord, 1932, and Whispers of His Love, 1905, explored themes of suffering, surrender, and intimacy with Christ. She became known for her lyrical, almost poetic style and her profound spiritual insights. Her writings were deeply devotional, often born out of her own struggles and triumphs. She never ceased to emphasize the importance of a life fully yielded to God regardless of the cost. These books became spiritual classics, influencing generations of missionaries and believers worldwide, offering a raw yet hopeful perspective on faith in action. In 1931, at the age of 63, Amy Carmichael suffered a severe fall that left her gravely injured. The accident marked a significant turning point in her life and ministry. For the remaining 20 years of her life, she was largely confined to her bed, often in intense pain. Yet, this period of physical immobility did not diminish her influence. If anything, it deepened it. From her bedroom, she continued to guide the Dohnavur Fellowship, write extensively, and offer spiritual counsel through letters and conversations. Her room became a pilgrimage site for those seeking wisdom and spiritual renewal. This unexpected season of suffering taught her, and those around her, profound lessons about God's sovereignty and the power of passive ministry. She proved that one's usefulness to God is not defined by physical strength or activity, but by spiritual submission and presence. Her quiet endurance became a powerful testimony to the children and workers at Dohnavur. She continued to write, producing some of her most beloved devotional works during these years, including If, 1910, which explored the practical implications of Christ-like love, and Edges of His Ways, 1920. Her physical limitations forced her to rely entirely on God and her devoted companions, fostering an even deeper sense of community and interdependence within the fellowship. She remained the spiritual anchor of Dohnavur, her prayers and wisdom continually shaping its direction. Her life, though marked by suffering, was a beacon of unwavering faith until the very end. Amy Carmichael passed away peacefully on January 18, 1951, at the age of 83, in Dohnavur, India. She had spent 56 years of her life in India, never once returning to her homeland. Her death was not a moment of despair, but a quiet homegoing, a transition from a life fully lived in service to an eternal reward. In accordance with her wishes, there was no headstone, just a simple bird bath in the Dohnavur garden with the inscription, Amma, a name given to her by the children she loved, meaning mother. The Dohnavur Fellowship, her enduring legacy, continued long after her passing. The work of rescuing and nurturing children, now grown into adults who shared her vision, carried on. Dohnavur stands today as a testament to her life, a vibrant community serving the vulnerable children of India, guided by the same principles of love, sacrifice, and faith that Amy established. Her life and work continue to inspire countless individuals to pursue a life of radical obedience and compassionate service. She did not leave behind a vast theological system or a global institution named after her, but she left a living, breathing testament to the power of God to transform lives through one surrendered vessel. Her story is a timeless reminder that true greatness lies not in fame or earthly accomplishments, but in a life poured out for others, a gold cord woven into the fabric of eternity through unwavering devotion to Christ Jesus. Lessons from a life laid down, Amy Carmichael's enduring wisdom. 1. Surrender is the foundation of true calling. Amy's life demonstrates that a deep, unwavering call from God often requires radical surrender of personal comfort, ambitions, and even health. Her willingness to say yes to the unknown, despite physical frailties, opened the door for profound impact. 2. Love transcends cultural barriers. By adopting Indian dress, customs, and language, Amy showed that genuine love seeks to identify with rather than impose upon others. Her approach fostered trust and broke down the walls that often hinder missionary efforts. 3. Compassion must lead to action. Encountering the horror of the Devadasi system, Amy didn't just feel pity, she acted with courage and conviction, risking her safety and reputation to rescue the most vulnerable. Her life is a call to move beyond empathy to practical, costly intervention. 4. Faith sustains through suffering. Amy battled chronic illness and faced immense opposition throughout her life. Her 20 years of being bedridden at the end of her life became a powerful testament to unshakable faith, proving that God's strength is perfected in weakness. 5. Small beginnings can have eternal outcomes. The Dohnavur Fellowship started with one rescued child. Amy's perseverance in nurturing individual lives led to a thriving community that has transformed hundreds, illustrating that faithfulness in small things yields exponential results. 6. Authenticity over glamour. Amy shunned publicity and lived a life of humility, focusing solely on the mission. Her impact came not from charisma or outward grandeur, but from a deep, authentic intimacy with Christ that radiated through her actions and words. 7. Legacy is lived, not built. Amy left no monuments in her name, but a living legacy of transformed lives within the Dohnavur Fellowship. Her story reminds us that true impact is measured by the spiritual sons and daughters we raise and the love we sow into the lives of others.